recent social media post made by Kerala's Chief Secretary Sarada Muraleedharan on colorism has started an important but deeply personal conversation on it. Sarada Muraleedharan on her Facebook spoke about a comment which compared her time with that of her husband and former Chief Secretary V. Venu. Someone apparently told her that her tenure was as black as his was white. In this post, she spoke about how she has faced such comments from the time she was a child and how it impacted her. In fact, apparently, when she was 4 years old, she wished she was white and pretty. But by sharing these comments, the Chief Secretary of Kerala has started a storm. Many people are sharing their experiences about colorism and why they believe that there should be a conversation around it. Joining us today is the Chief Secretary herself. Thank you very much for joining us on the News Minute. You ended your Facebook post, which has become viral all over the country, saying, Black is beautiful, black is gorgeousness, that I dig black. And ever since you put that status, there has been a lot of conversation regarding colorism. Is that something really that you expected? Because now it's not just you. So many people have come out to speak about the ostracism they faced to really embrace the color.
True. When I put that out, I did want to, start the conversation, but I didn't realize that it would. I didn't expect it to become a Me Too moment, and I'm so glad it did because then it's not about me anymore. It's so much about just taking the issue of color and addressing it headlong.
What actually prompted you to put that Facebook post? I understand that this was basically the constant comparison with your husband itself. And then there was a comment which also was about colorism. Was that what prompted you?
Well, colorism, the comparison with my husband, and the matter of getting comments regarding color, but both are things that I've had in different kinds of spaces. One is a home and social cultural space, and the other is the official space. And the comparisons are not. I mean, these are interesting comparisons because the one thing, people knew both of us as bureaucrats in Kerala cadre for quite some time, and we've been regarded as sharing similar values and bringing similar kinds of things to work. But then, the problem with that understanding is also that there is an expectation that I would be a replica of my husband in the same post that he. And it's the first time that I'm succeeding him, or that we are both of us in the same post in government. Now that brings with it a different kind of comparison, and so I've been used to that comparison. It's okay. It's just that when that comparison is suddenly linked to my color, and to say that and make that the basis of comparison, it was quite strange, and it was so when it did say that it's you're this is you can't help how people um, are coming out of their conditioning is coming out. So uh, don't let that bother you. But then with me, it's always been that something, no matter how small, it rankles, and then I eat it up, and then I spit it out. But until I spit it out, it's there, and it was in that phase that I put the post out. So
But I just want to probe further. What was the nature of this? Why did this person make this comment? I'm amazed that he or she linked colorism also. Were they upset with you for some decision you took or some order? What was the, I mean, you don't have to disclose the entire thing, but at least what was the nature of why this attack came?
I really don't know. It was made in jest, and I did not think that there was any specific issue that they had concern about. So it was just an overall observation that they were making, and maybe it was also the fact that you got the two of us together, and it was like, hey, something. She's her administration is as black as she is, and not like you. Yours is white. So And then he did realize that something was not right there. So he stumbled and said that it was, she's just so much more stricter than you are.
But actually, it is little alarming that somebody would say that in jest, right? That they think that this comment is okay. And in your Facebook post, you've also written that from the time you were 4-year-old, apparently you asked your mother that can you put me back in your womb and return me as white and pretty. So tell me about what is the kind of comments that you faced from childhood itself. Did that condition you? Did that scare you?
No, well, apparently, Nandalala also had the same trouble. Radha kyun gori ho main kyun kala? So this is something which children of color face everywhere, and I've had so many responses, including from within my family, of how their children have gone through this, have come home crying, have wondered, why they are being hit upon, just for being a certain kind of color. So it's been that way. It's been a space for people to come to terms. I mean, to come to an understanding that it's really not about them. It's really about a particular kind of goggles through which we are seeing each other.
When you face these comments as a child, I mean, you or anybody else, it takes time to perhaps understand what's happening around, right? But you are a successful bureaucrat, you are in the top position. Did these comments continue no matter how successful you are in your career,
Well,
or
I
did they reduce?
no. So it's in your career, and particularly in a career of a civil servant, you tend to get insulated from a lot of this. But until you get there, however, it's all around you. And even after you get there, there is, it's not like you're wearing your civil servant tag wherever you go and whatever you do. So in your interactions, you in when you step out, when you are just in your anonymous garb, you find that that is there, all pervasive, all around you. So you just know that, for the time that you are in a particular hierarchy and that you're in a particular structure, maybe you don't get to see it, but it's there. And I've been, after I've said that, I've had quite a few officers also agree with me that, yeah, you can, it is easier to be overlooked when you're making a point. It's easier for your point not to get completely articulated and for someone to move on, because it's interesting, because unless you're very aggressive with it, it becomes difficult actually to be seen and heard.
Do you think it becomes worse for women than men?
Absolutely, no question.
You also said that you got compared a lot with your husband throughout your career. I mean, or from whenever you got married. Is that true in the reverse too? Did he ever get compared to you, or was it a very gendered thing?
So Venu has been very careful to project me, to say that, to make sure that I'm protected from that kind of comment. So it's like, you take the offensive head on and say that, I mean, she's the one. She's the deep one. Uh, I'm superficial. Uh, you know, the one who really gets deep into the game is my wife, and that kind of comment before people come out with comparisons that could be problematic.
So Kerala prides itself in very being very liberal and progressive. But looking at all the comments that have come below your post, the discussions on TV channels, colorism is a deep problem in the state, and your post has given courage for so many people to speak out, right? And what are your thoughts about that?
Now, I've also felt that if there is one place where this can be spoken about openly, where people will have the guts to come out and speak and make comments for and against, without fear or favor, that would be Kerala. And
Hmm.
because as a society, when problems hit us, or when views that shake us up hit us, we just it's not just taking it in your stride. It's about accosting it, dissecting it, analyzing it to the teeth. So yes, in that sense, I'm very I feel that that's very promising about Kerala.
Hmm.
This is something, this colorism is something which is there not just in the households of Kerala. It is in the households all across India. It is in households outside India as well. It's and we've had, the Black Lives Matter movement has also been about taking that on. We've had, when in the post too, there have been so many comments and stories and observations that have been made by people across the world on the matter of color. So it's deeply ingrained in a psyche that seems to be universal, and therefore it's, the fight with regard to it also has to be much more starker and stronger.
What are some of the comments that you got? I'm sure that people wrote to you about their own experiences, right? From somebody wanting a bride who is fair, uh, to job requirements, or so many other kind of things. Could you recount some of the things that people wrote to you?
What people wrote and people said was, of course, many people said that they could relate. It was very relatable, and also surprisingly, you know, the you know that you are dark, but people who are fairly fair also seem to have gone through moments like this, or issues like this, just because they were fair but not quite fair enough. They were more wheatish than fair, and then in communities where fairness was so much more. um at least I come from a state where there are a whole host of dark-skinned people, but then a person who is not fair enough in a community where most everybody is fair also feels exactly the same thing, that they're not good enough. And so I've had that from both men and women. The descriptions, how they've been bullied on that count, and each and every one of us don't think of it as bullying. We think of it as a problem that we have, that if that something missing in our get up, which needs to be compensated for or managed and or hidden. And yeah, I've had multiple comments of that nature. I've also had, interestingly, comments come from other comments come about insecurity about height, insecurity about balding, about not having of having being a bald person. So and there was one comment which was also the insecurity about albinism, so it was about it being too white also. So yeah, so it's actually, ultimately, it's about body shaming, and body shaming because there is a perception of an ideal which we push everybody towards, and we assess everybody against and find them wanting. So it's almost as
You
if,
know,
as a community, we need to find we need to find flaws and cement them.
yeah, that's actually true, right? We need to find flaws in people, but the problem is we make those people believe that they are flaws. And what you said, right? It is bullying at times, but we don't recognize that as bullying. Did you also go through that? In fact, in your post, you say that it's your children who made you realize that black is beautiful, that I have to embrace it.
Yes, precisely. The bullying is something that we've seen across. I mean, it's um, being bullied for being dark, and for not being quote unquote pretty, has been something that I've gone through. Uh, my children, however, we both, Venu and I, have taken great pains to keep nasty commentary about personalities and about color and about size and about how we think and what we are. We've tried very hard to keep them out of the house. We've also been very particular about them enjoying and embracing diversity. So, and I think that has helped. But then, it is one thing for us to create that space. It is another for them to occupy it and then to turn it back upon us and say that, you know, the space that you've given to us, you are not occupying. And to what I see as faults or blemishes, they come out and say, "Oh, come on, this is something lovely about you." And then you go from there into being a little bit more comfortable in your skin. But it's also about getting to look at other people differently and to realize that whatever you have been defensive about, you are unconsciously making other people defensive about yourself. So you are part of the problem. So you've got to recognize it first and change the way you look at the world for the world to start changing the way it looks at itself.
But the bias against color also can have serious consequences. I was reading a news story from Kerala itself. I think it happened a few weeks or months ago, where a woman died by suicide because she was continuously told by her husband and in laws that you are dark. So it can have serious consequences, right? From the fact that you would be rejected for a wedding alliance to then having been taunted all the time. So it does have serious consequences for a lot of women, especially.
Yes, that's precisely the reason why this conversation is very important. That we need to in the perception that black is not beautiful needs to change. And we need to fight that perception. It is not about fair being beautiful. Yes, fair is beautiful, but so is black. It's just that we are different kinds of beauty. And because you see one kind of beauty, and you should not refuse to see another kind.
But in Malayalam, there are these songs and sayings, right? Karupinaraga, which means black is beautiful. But are those just mere words? We don't actually mean them.
I have a feeling, for a very long time as a child, it was like കറുപ്പാണെങ്കിൽ എന്താ ഐശ്വര്യമുണ്ട്. So it was like this Aishwaryam was this strange entity that made up for the fact that I was black. Um, Pinne, and then also Karupinir Aragano. You know what? So don't get upset by the snide remarks that are being made. Karupinir Aragano, and it's almost as if it's a consolation prize. To be told that. People might not like black, but it actually is something pretty important and pretty nice. But the fact will remain that if I have a choice, I will be going in search of a fair bride. If I have a choice, I will take somebody who really looks good in my understanding as someone as the receptionist in my front office. So there are a whole host of jobs in which that becomes actually critical. So it's a message that keeps coming to you. You're in a queue, or you're in need of assistance, and you will always find that your fair companion is the one who gets helped first. That you are always last in the line. But at the same time, if there's something if there's a problem or an issue, you might be the first one to get picked up to saying that, are you a problem maker? So there are all these subterranean associations that come around this demeaning of black. And as I was just reading an article which was talking about, look at this blacklisting, blackmailing. uh, so the the association of black with death and white with weddings. So it's there are so many negative connotations around black that have come in, and we need to counter that with the positive connotations that we can bring into the discourse.
So maybe my last question in this line is that you spoke about, when somebody gets chosen even as a receptionist, that color would matter there. So does colorism, in all the people that wrote to you, do you believe that it has impacted women's esteems? And even if they're in powerful position, colorism continues to impact their esteem.
I'm sure it does, because ultimately everybody who makes it has found coping strategies. And what are those coping strategies? Those coping strategies could be compensation, they could be aggression, they could be evasion, um, and they could also be acceptance completely, that sorry, but this is, I'm just not good enough. And then if you and that lowers your self-esteem, and when your self-esteem goes down, whether you like it or not, your performance also goes down. Your identity gets um, gets obfuscated, and that's a bad thing, because we're losing the potential of people. So workspaces have to be spaces where people can give their best. Home spaces have to be places where people can be their best. So everywhere, this needs to change.
In an interview with the Indian Express, you have said there is a question of who gets to speak most, who gets to interrupt, and who gets to be heard. If you are not at the top of any such hierarchy, then it becomes extremely difficult. Can you explain this comment a bit more?
So, us officers are forever in the holding meetings, consultations, discussions, etc. And that's one part of what we do. And these also include consultations with stakeholders outside the government. So both inside the government and outside the government, if you see how conversations go, uh, it's that insidious thing that there are some people who get to speak all the time, and there are some people whose opinions get cut down pretty commonly. So one of that is, of course, gender. You, uh, but the problem also is that when you have come through an experience, or coming out of an experience where um, you have doubted yourself, an implication, and an almost immediate implication, is that your capability of articulating what you want to say also goes down. And that is almost it is almost always evident, because if you aren't articulating well enough, it is presumed that what you are trying to say isn't also important enough to be heard, and it very often gets bypassed, and it gets missed. You see that, and you see that happen all the time. You see that, and I've had a very long tenure in Kudumbasri, working with women, and on the issues of women empowerment. And when we look at women empowerment, um, it's also about voice and agency. It's about them being finding themselves capable enough to speak, believing that what they are going to what they're saying is important enough to be heard, and overcoming shyness, which is actually just a reflection of a complete bullying of the natural tendency of a child to shine. And then, so the persons who've been bullied the most are the ones who will be most inarticulate, and who continue to feel that they are bullied. So it's about being able to break that and to come into your own. And yes, so you will find that, I mean, there are all these, you know politics of identity that are playing around the the conference room, the office space, the discussion table. They're there, And if a good officer is someone who also would be able to be sensitive to some of this and make sure that everyone has their space.
You spoke about Kudumbashri. How difficult was that tenure? I mean, I'm sure it was enjoyable also because you were working for those women. But how difficult was it to make sure that their voice is heard, that their agency is intact?
Oh, Kudumbashree, I can speak reams about Kudumbashree, but to answer this, it was it's extremely difficult. It was uh, it was easy in a certain sense because at the time that I was in Kudumbashree, people, women did not really matter much. So it was like SAGs and women, they're up to their little things. So it doesn't, it's not affecting any of us. So let that go. So let them be happy in that space. So you had that kind of thing. So it was in a sense easy. Not to it was the word I should use is it was good not to be seen because then you could do a lot of things because empowerment always means somebody's power comes at the cost of someone else's, and therefore it means that if you are empowering women you are disempowering somebody else, or you are privileging somebody. So uh, and you need to be hit with it um, when it's too late to control the damage of of empowerment that has happened, if you get what I mean. And therefore, working with women working with women under wraps was a way of actually building a base that would create enough of voice to help women be empowered and then show that power to the world. And that starts in it starts in the neighborhood group. It starts in the social structures that have been given to them, because it was fine so long as they were just numbers there, but the moment they become voices in these structures, the whole dynamic changes. And that dynamic comes at a cost. You know, and I would say that any place that claims empowerment where there hasn't been a backlash, it means that that empowerment is completely superficial. Because a backlash is an indication that it is working, that it is changing, and it is disrupting.
So, one different take that I saw on this entire saga is from Jay Devika. I don't know if you read her article which came on Kafila. She is applauding you for speaking up. She agrees with you, but she also says that if there is someone who should be held responsible, in fact, the word she uses is the worst colorism in Kerala today, I can only point to our ruling government. We seem to be living in a springtime of women's struggles, but some seem to receive more support than the others. She's, of course, talking about the ASHA workers' struggle.
Yeah. So the when it comes to a specific matter, I will not. Uh, you will have to respect that I will not be able to comment on this because of the fact that a that the struggle is ongoing, and b the government position, and I am bound um, to speak the government position. So or not to comment on that, but yes, I would like to say that be it Asha, be it Anganwadi, be it the Kudumbashree network, we it is a realization that if you look across the spectrum, and this is everywhere, that you will find that women are the ones who are in the informal positions and expected to take on formal roles in informal positions. So there is a dichotomy there, and that's a dichotomy that needs to come into, and it has already come into the space of Kerala politics, but it has to come into the space of every national politics as well. So I will
In
limit
fact, we
to that comment.
We had an interesting article the other day which said that this whole thing that women should nurture, care, feed, that is being implemented in these roles, because an asha worker, an anganwadi worker is also seen as a woman in the community who's just feeding and nurturing, and therefore they don't need to be paid enough for that.
Although yes, there was an observation which was made by government itself that we need to recognize the the care that is being given by women in the role of carer, and to acknowledge that and also monetize that, to bring in a remuneration there. How that was to be worked out, I think it's also a matter of the coffers of the state. So that continues to be just a discussion in the air. It hasn't become anything concrete as yet. But the very fact that that was articulated, I think, is an indication that the political system is also beginning to recognize that.
I have final two questions. You are set for retirement. What would be your post retirement plans, or have you had no time to make them?
Well, post retirement, the first things that I want to do is to enjoy freedom, and do all the things that I would have loved to do earlier, and I was stopped midway, and build on that. So that includes my piano, my French, gardening, traveling, and so that's one part of it. Another part of it is also about maybe looking at the experience that we've had, and a couple of very close colleagues of mine would like to put together and work on modules which would touch on decentralized governance, touch on women, and empowerment in community spaces, and also on disaster and climate resilience. So there are, plus waste management, which has been the albatross around my neck for the past 5 years. So all these experiences, I think I would like to bring them into some kind of a modular form, and take it from there.
My final question, you started this very important conversation on colorism. How would you like to personally carry that forward? And what do you think systems, including that of governments, can do to really tackle this and to open up this conversation more?
For colorism, and there are two things. Of course, if this becomes a Me Too movement, and it already has uh, that kind of thing, and it's not about me. It's that maybe I've been able to just put in a spark that has become a conflagration and should stay so. But the second is, and that's very important, that we need to have Black role models who will continue to talk about this, who will continue to project themselves, and who will continue to give us an alternate standard of beauty. That, I think, is very important for everybody to say, you know what, I'm like her, I'm like him, and there's beauty there, and I'm that's the beauty that I relate to, and and I aspire to. So you need to have those role models. We have them already. They need to come out so much more. Industry and stories, and entertainment, media, all of this need to start celebrating them more, and they need to also step up and put themselves out there to inspire.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, the final word is, of course, one of optimism, that we need more role models to come out and speak. And that's the only way we can tell the world that colorism is not okay, that black is beautiful. Thank you very much for joining us at the News Minute, and all the very best for your future endeavors.